Making a palm cross is fairly simple once you know what you're doing. I would recommend a palm that's a little bit skinnier, like this one. You can also make it work with a thicker palm, like this one. I'll go over that in just a minute here. But I will start with the easier way to do it, which is to find yourself a nice skinnier palm. And then you just want to take a pair of scissors and cut each end of the palm at an angle, I would say roughly 45 degrees or so. And you want to trim it down so that it is roughly uniform in size on each end. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just get it decently close enough. Now, once you have your palm like this, what you're going to want to do is start, I would say about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way up the palm. You're going to make a right angle bend, like so, and just crease it thoroughly. Then fold it back over on itself. Fold it back over on itself again. And now, if you look closely, you'll see that there's kind of this structure with two holes that you could potentially stick the longer part of the palm through. So what you want to do is you want to take the longer part of the palm, bring it over the shorter part of the palm where you last bent it, and then bring it back down and through the middle, like so. Kind of like tying a knot, really. Once you have this little knot and a right angle in your palm, the next part is really very simple. You just fold the short bit back on itself. Don't worry too much if it starts peeling a little bit. You can just peel it off and then snip it with your scissors. But you just want to take it through and then double it back on itself one more time. That could be a little tricky sometimes if your palm is a little short. And then you just want to get them to be roughly about the same length at each side, and then just crease the ends. And again, if you have any little stray hairs like this, just take your pair of scissors and snip them off. Lastly, you're going to take the long part of the palm, bring it back on itself through here, make it so that you have a loop that is about the same length as the two other ones that you already made. Crease it there. And then bring it back up and through itself one more time, like so. And you have your cross. Now, if you don't have a thinner palm, like the one that I just showed you, and instead you have a bit of a thicker palm that's more like this, you know, closer to, I would say, 1/2 inch in width rather than 1/4 inch, what you're going to do is sometimes the end will be split like this, in which case you can just kind of rip it, and you'll end up with a nicely sized palm to make your cross. If not, sometimes it's not notched towards the end. In that case, you can just, again, take your pair of scissors and just make a little notch. One end of the palm will kind of have a larger, hard nub on the edge. So you just kind of want to take that off, and usually by just kind of taking that off, you end up with a palm that is quite nicely sized to make a cross with. So once you've done that, again, you're just going to take your scissors. You're going to cut at like a roughly 45-degree angle. Now, the reason I recommend cutting it at an angle is because it makes it easier for it to go through the holes that you have. When you're looping it back on itself, it makes it easier to go through the holes rather than having a flat one and having to try to get the whole thing in there at once. You can kind of get the one corner in and it'll just draw the rest in with it. And then again, just the other side at an angle. So, again, the steps to follow are take your palm, go roughly 2/3 to 3/4 of the way to one end, and make yourself a nice 90-degree angle like so. Take the shorter part of the palm, loop it back on itself twice. Like so. And then take the longer part of the palm and bring it up, over, and then through the middle, like so. So again, you're basically just tying a knot here. It's funny how much of arts and crafts tends to revolve around knots when you think about it. But yeah, so again, once you have it here, it's very simple. That's the hard part done. You just need to loop the short end back over on itself. And when you look at it, you'll notice that the short end is closer to the top on one side of your knot, and the long end is closer to the top on the longer side of your knot. You always want to loop the palm back. On the first time, you always want to loop the palm back on top of itself, as close to the top of the knot as you can get it. The second time you do it, you want to loop it back behind itself so that the other end of the palm gets hidden within the, that beam of the cross. Like so. And then again, you just take the longer part of your palm, and sometimes it'll be a little bit more awkward, sometimes it'll go easily, and you bring this to about the same length as your two other little arms, crease it, and then loop it back on itself, and you're done. And there you have the two little crosses I just made. They'll be a little different each time you do them. They'll always be a bit unique, but that's part of the charm of making them. Good luck in your endeavors.